Our vision began right there in the city of Mesa in 1995. Me and my wife, we began to kind of like feel a sense and an urgency for the city as we would open up the newspaper, would see in the newspaper there gang violence, drug addiction. We would hear on the news of all the things that were going on there in the city of Mesa due to gang violence, drug addiction, domestic violence. All these things, as we were hearing these things going on in the city, me and my wife began to sense a call for the city of Mesa. Soon after that, we went and asked our pastor, Pastor, what do you think about us going into the city of Mesa? And I remember our pastor said, well, go ahead, go scout the city. And as we began to do that, we started going into the city, looking at it. About a week later, our pastor receives a call from a chaplain. And this chaplain asked him if he would be interested in taking over a property right there on Dana. He says, I have a property, would you be interested in renting it? And so as me and Pastor Tony, we went to go look at it. As soon as we stepped on that property, we knew that this was the place. It was 6 apartment units, 3 of them that interfaced each other. Each one had a 3-car garage. Once we looked at it, I told Pastor, I feel we can do this. We began in May of 1995 working on the property. We began to restore the property there. We transformed one of the 3-car garages into what we called the 3-car garage. That's where we started the church there. Sat about 40 people, between 30 to 40 people. Then the other 3-car garage, we transformed it into a nursery/Sunday school. And then of course me and my wife moved in there. We had the men's home. We also had a women's home at that time. So we all lived there on this property. Soon after that, we began a massive crusade into the city of Mesa. The East Valley had never been exposed to the ministry of Victory Outreach. We started having our crusade. We did the drama called Slipping into Darkness, Pastor Tony's drama. And as we began to hit the city with radical evangelism, when we had it, we rented the Mesa High School auditorium, which sat about 1,500 people. We figured we'd pack it out one time. Turned out to be that we wound up packing it out twice. We had over 3,000 people there the very first time that we did our crusade there in the city of Mesa. The city was totally open to the gospel. We began to see growth immediately right away. People started coming to our 3-car garage. Soon after that, 6 months later, we had to move into another building. So we found a 3,000 square foot building right there in Morris, right there. So we transformed that place into a sanctuary, which sat, I believe it was about 100 to 120 people. We had our classrooms there, we had our offices there. And we just continued to do radical evangelism in the city of Mesa there. We had the car show right there in Chandler, in the city of Chandler, which drew over 4,000 people. We had no idea that the city, these cities and the surrounding cities had never been exposed to a ministry like ours through radical evangelism. So all our events that we were doing were having tremendous success. We did other events like the lowrider bike shows. We did the also other events like the Battle of the Breakers. Each event that we were having was drawing thousands of people, drawing large crowds. Through this, right there in Morris, we began to grow our church. We began to establish our leadership, develop our people. We were there for 3 years. As we were there, at the 3rd year, we seen that we didn't fit anymore in the building. We actually started having services outside on Sunday mornings because we didn't fit. So we began to look for a building, and in this process, as we were looking for a building, we went ahead and started renting Carson Junior High just for Sunday morning services so that we could accommodate the people. Soon after that, we found a theater that had been empty for probably about 3 to 4 years. We began the negotiations there with the owner. Soon after that, a couple weeks later, I remember me and my pastor, we were sitting down in a restaurant signing the lease. Making the final agreements for it. We moved into an 8,000 square foot building, which we transformed into a beautiful worship center there, which even our very own founding pastors, Pastor Sonny and Sister Julie Arganzoni, once came and ministered there at a unity service that we had. So right there in that worship center that we had there on University, we were there for approximately 5 years. And through those 5 years, we've seen a tremendous growth there in our church and our people. Our church had probably, we had grown to about 250 people. Our lease was up at the end of 5 years, and we as a ministry, we made a decision to make a move. So we moved from the theater and we went to a conference center. This part of our history right here was probably the most difficultest time in ministry for me as a pastor, my family, and also our church. Making that move really costed us greatly. We moved into the conference center. We were there for a year. We continued to struggle, trying to find another facility that we could afford. And I remember this was a very difficult time because me and my wife were watching our church little by little begin to dwindle down in numbers. We didn't have the proper facility to facilitate the people, being the church and the size of church that we had. Soon after that, we moved to New Horizons School. We felt that this would be a better place for better facilities for the children. We were there for a year. We continued to see our church decline. As we seen that, me as a pastor, as an individual, I began to struggle in my walk with the Lord, thinking, was I really called? This was a difficult season in my life. If I personally had not seen my own pastor go through something like this, I would have probably even thought about quitting. But because of the struggles that I see my pastor go through and the difficulties, it also reminded me that I was going to have to go through similar trials. And it was in this time that I began to pray and fast and seek the Lord. And through this time, this was when God was beginning to reveal to me and show me that it was time for us to move to another city, and He was showing me the city of Tempe. I struggled with this for the fact that we knew that it was God that had called us to the city of Mesa. And I couldn't understand why God would call us away from that city. And through prayer and fasting, I began to seek the Lord, and God began to show me that the city of Tempe was a strategic city. It was a tri-city. It was an influential city to the surrounding cities around it. And God began to show me it was a multicultural city. It was a young city. The demographics were right for a ministry like ours. So as God began to show me this, I brought it to the church, and I said, Church, I feel led that we're going to be moving to the city of Tempe. Through this process, wasn't maybe like about a couple weeks later, we were able to find the facility that we're now in, and God opened the doors. We knew it was God. God is so awesome, we even wrote our own lease to move into this building. That's how we knew that it was God. By the time we moved into the city of Tempe here, there was probably only left maybe between 60 to 70 people. Our church had taken a devastating hit. We had dwindled down in numbers greatly. And I remember when we moved in, I knew that it was God that was showing me that this was the city that we needed to be in. And even though I knew that a lot of our congregants didn't agree with it, but God was showing me that right here in the city of Tempe, that God was going to raise up a strong financial home base, that He was going to use this ministry to be a launching pad so that we would be able to launch out churches to the east and the west and the north and the south. And I just really felt it in my heart. And as we've been here in the city of Tempe, we have seen the mighty move of God. It has been a tremendous move. Right now our church is growing with new membership, new leadership rising up. We're seeing God just move and manifest in a mighty way. We're looking here within the next several months that we're going to be going into double services here in our church. We have just also taken on an additional 3,000 square feet right over here next door to us right there, where we're going to be able to grow and accommodate our children. By May 2009, we're going to be able to take over this entire building, 12,000 square feet. Right next to us, we're going to be able to build right there a 500-seat auditorium where we're really going to be able to grow. Right here in Victory Outreach, we're in Victory Outreach Tempe. We are experiencing a mighty manifestation of God. I thank God for all the trials and the tribulations that we went through. These were some good times and difficult times, but through all in all, God has seen us through it. Victory Outreach Tempe, this is our time, this is our season. I know that God is going to take us to a whole nother level. We're believing that God is just going to explode this ministry. We have a vision to launch out churches, partnering alongside with our regional pastor, Pastor Tony Garcia, that has a vision to impact and infiltrate the whole state of Arizona. And we know that out of here, churches are going to come out, directors, men's home directors, women's home directors, missionaries are going to come out so that we can continue to reach out to a hurting community and to a hurting world. Our vision continues.